Hey everybody, it's Steph, and I am back for the mid-year freak-out tag. I am excited to talk about the books that I read in 2020. Today I've got Puppy here with me. What was the last video? You were in maybe the May wrap-up? You giving me kisses. Alright, so the mid-year freak-out is 14 questions, and I feel like the term freak out makes it sound like I'm like panicking, but I'm not panicking. This is just for fun, and whatever I happen to read is great, and whatever I don't get to will still be there for another time. No pressure. There's enough other pressure in life. I don't need to give pressure on myself for reading or for what I'm getting to or what I'm not getting to. That's that. Here we go. The first question is probably the one I had the hardest time coming up with something for, and it's the best book. I've read over 170 books so far in 2020. To ask me to pick one is like super difficult. Some of the best books I've read in the 6 months of 2020 that we've had so far are And Still I Rise by Maya Angelou, Love Remains by Sarah Eden. I liked Kate Breslin's newest book, Far Side the Sea. Did a reread, Friends and Foes. Liked Becky Wade's newest book. Oh, I've read some Jason Reynolds, which I really liked. All these different authors are just creating awesome books. There's so many good things to choose from. Those are a few of my favorites. Moving on. Number 2. Best sequel, Wings of Devotion. This is a World War I story that takes place in England, and the book is written by Rosanna M. White, being a pilot in the English Air Force, and we have a nurse. So we kind of see the disparity in the way that they're experiencing the war, in their gender, in their roles, and how they're contributing to the war. Someone is falsely accused of something and is questioning their loyalty to the crown, to England. Something else I really liked about this book is when I read the short little description of it, it did not tell me the story. Sometimes when I read little blurbs, you already know what's happening. Whereas this one feels like it's setting up your story, and there's so many more places you can go because you haven't been told everything that's going to happen in this book. Really liked it. Great story. Number 3. New releases I haven't read yet. There's the Kiracast book, which has been getting mixed reviews, but I love the Selection series, so I'm probably going to give it a go at some point. Jen Fulwiler, who's a really great nonfiction author. I love her writing because she always talks about like embracing your purpose and who you're meant to be. Whether or not you have roles within your family or provide for people in your family, how you can do something that's fulfilling for yourself and your purpose and your talents and abilities. I've heard it's amazing. Her other books have been amazing, so I have no doubt I definitely want to check this Blue Flame book out. Next one is Peasant's Dream by Melanie Dickerson. This is part of the Hangenheim series. This is the 11th book and the last book in the series. So she does fairy tale retellings in this series. Definitely want to check out these books. They are on my TBR. Last but not least, there's a Jen Turana book called Storing Up Trouble. Something tells me it came out in like May or June. So definitely want to check that one out because all her books are golden and they're always good for like a laugh and some heartfelt moments, as well as some very humorous and clever moments. Number 4 is most anticipated books for the second half of the year. Sarah Eden's book coming out in September. Then we have Colors of Truth by Tamara Alexander, creates fictional stories within these real settings. Post-Civil War stories and talks about the struggles of the South kind of recovering from Civil War, as well as the changes and transformations that took place at that time. So that one's coming out later this year, so I'm really excited to read that one. P.S. Disappointments. I don't like focusing on the negatives, so I'm just going to talk about these real quick. P.S. I Still Love You. This is the second in the To All the Boys I've Loved Before trilogy. I read this book because I wanted to read it before I saw the Netflix movie. I just didn't feel totally invested in it. I didn't love all the choices that were made. It didn't have the same appeal that the first book did. It just wasn't my favorite. And the other big disappointment that I had on my list was Darling Rose Gold. Trying something different, mystery, thriller, suspense. I just didn't love the ending and the whole process. It just made me feel crummy reading it, and I felt so horrible for these characters, and even more horrible for the fact that this is based on a true story, and it wasn't a world I wanted to be in and live in and read in. It didn't address mental illness in the way that it could have. If I just like hover right here in the sunlight. Hi, jazz hands! Biggest surprise is there's a nonfiction book called Change Your Schedule, Change Your Life, which I really enjoyed. It had a lot of practical advice about just how to maximize your body's potential. Food, drink, the way to manage your caffeine, and so on and so forth in order to like maximize your body's potential for energy and work effectiveness and productivity. I really liked what it had to say. I thought it was awesome, and it's stuck with me even though I read it back in like February or late January, and it's gotten my wheels turning as to like how can I take care of myself to the best of my ability so I can go out into the world and contribute good things to the world. I also really liked Big Magic. It was very positive, it was very creative. I just wasn't expecting to like it and really enjoy it as much as I did. I listened to the audiobook and I found I kept reaching for like a pen and paper to write down something that was said. I like, oh, I really like that quote, or oh, that's like a nice little nugget of truth to just keep around and keep in my head and inspire me. The last big surprise was Lakeshare Park. So this was a debut novel. I wasn't sure what to expect with it. The premise was a little bit unique. It's not something I've seen done before, where two people who are kind of falling for each other as both of their siblings are vying for the same man as a potential husband. They both have younger sisters, and both their sisters want to set up marriages with this dude who they're visiting. So it was made for a very interesting house party read and a very enjoyable storytelling experience. Next up, we have favorite author, whether this be a new author that I've read or an author that's like brand new this year. I really enjoyed Joanna Barker. I'd mentioned that I'd wanted to read some of hers during, I think it was my stay-at-home reading tag, so I really enjoyed, I've read two of her books since. I will put them right here, and they were great books. Certainly enjoyed them. I'm looking forward to reading more of hers. Newest fictional crush. This was just a tough one. There are the classic crushes, like Mr. Darcy from Pride and Prejudice, or any of the other darling Austen men, excluding the Mr. Collins characters of Jane Austen's world, of course, or like the Willoughbys or the Wickhams. So I digress. So beyond that, Gilbert Blythe, or many of those other charming fictional characters. I really liked the guy from Love Remains by Sarah Eden. I think I read this right before quarantine. It was so good. Tavish is our main male lead, and he is working like overtime to try to take care of his family, make sure everybody's okay, take care of his house and the farm that he lives on, and help out his parents who are aging, help out his siblings. And he just like has a heart of gold, and he has like struck out with love, and you just feel for him. This guy needs some happiness, needs something for his own that just brings him joy. Very crush worthy. Favorite new character, also in Love Remains by Sarah Eden, this is Cecily. Cecily ends up coming to town because she is a blind woman who travels around the country teaching other blind students how to cope with their blindness and how to be successful navigating their home and preparing for life in whatever capacity that they want to go out into the world, depending obviously on their wealth and status, whether or not they're looking for jobs or whether or not they're just looking for spouses or functioning at highfalutin fancy dinner parties. Whatever the case may be. She's very intelligent, she is very observant, and she is very well-spoken. So I really like all its components. She's a great character to read about, and obviously I really like this book, so you should read it if you're interested. I'm not biased at all. Number 10 is books that made you cry. I did not have any that were like super tear-inducing in the last 6 months. I have 2 books here. They're serious, represent real-life challenges that are going on in the world. One is a nonfiction book, one is a fictional book, but both represent challenges that are going on within our world, and it just breaks my heart that we're so divided on so many things in the world right now. And I don't pretend to have a solution to everything, but I just pray and hope that as a society, as a world, as a people, that we can work together to make positive change for everyone and make this world a better place. With that, we have We Are Displaced and The Hate You Give, and I just hope that make this world a better place for everyone. Without getting more political, just this heavy on my heart. Yeah. So moving on, books that made me happy. I reread the Jonquil Brothers books, and they are so sweet and so sincere. I love books that have a different viewpoint of different siblings throughout their stories. I really love seeing one family portrait, but with each book, we're turning that camera and we're facing it at a different person. So we're really kind of getting to learn different things about each person, the family, each of these siblings as each sequential book occurs. So I reread them. It made my heart happy. If you are looking for books that make you happy and you like historical or Regency romance, you definitely want to check these books out. The most beautiful book covers I've read in 2020, we have Homegoing. I think this pattern, this graphic design is absolutely gorgeous. I love the color scheme in it. This is a story that takes place from 1700s to present day, and I love that this kind of represents some of the history that takes place in this book as well as the journey that the characters go through. Beautiful, beautiful cover. Big magic, and I love the color scheme. I love that it looks like, I imagine someone looks like after a color run where they're just like covered in all these like bright and charming colors, and it just looks so fun. Then we have the Dutch House, which just grabbed my attention for the first time I saw a cover, where we have this beautiful painting that's done, and it's referred to time and time again in the book, and it does have a pivotal kind of part in the plot throughout the book. Fun fact, the audiobook is read by Tom Hanks, which is the only reason I picked it up, because I wasn't sure kind of whether or not I wanted to read before. But Tom Hanks reading to me for, I don't know, 9-10 hours. I was very cool with that. Last but not least, Seraphina and the Black Cloak. This is a story that has literally caught my eye because of its cover. It was on my TBR for so long before I finally got to it, and I'm glad I did. Other covers in the series are equally beautiful. I love the design, the silhouette, the way that the colors capture your attention. Second to last question, books that you want to read for the second half of the year. Okay, so there are series that I haven't read because they're not complete, and you really want to just like read the whole series. Kind of like I just did for Scythe in May, and I was so glad I had all 3 of those books, because if I hadn't, I would have been like, no, I have to wait like a year to find out what happens. So I really want to read this trilogy of Children of Blood and Bone, dive into this story, learn about all these awesome characters, learn about this amazing person on the cover. I'm digging it. And then The Curse, So Dark and Lonely. I really want to read that, partially because of the Beauty and the Beast retelling component, but honestly, the part that sounded most appealing to me was that the fact that the main female character is supposed to have cerebral palsy, I believe it is. And I love that we're seeing more characters with disabilities come up into mainstream fiction, so that makes me want to read it. So I'm interested in checking that out. I know that that's the beginning of a trilogy, and the third one comes out either late 2020 or early 2021, so that's on my agenda. I might start reading them towards the end of the year, maybe December, so that I can be ready for the third book to come out whenever it decides to come out. And last but not least, number 14 is favorite book community members. No, I'm still like discovering more booktube people. I'll list in the description below of all the people that you should check out. I really enjoy following authors as well as like readers and just seeing what books people have read that they've enjoyed and really kind of added to their day. Made it brighter. So I hope you enjoyed watching this list. Thank you for listening to me just like ramble on about books. I'd love to chat about books with you and hear from you about your favorite books, what you've read this year. So yeah, thanks so much for watching this video. I hope that you enjoyed it, and I hope that you find some books to bring some sunshine to your day. Thank you so much for watching. I look forward to chatting more about books with you soon, and I will see you guys later. Have a great day.